Venezuela, during the meeting of the National Council for Sovereignty and Peace, the Secretary General Jorge Rodriguez affirmed that the media has the responsibility of showing and defending the truth and reality of the country. In Haiti, clashes between criminal groups caused the death of at least 84 people. And more than 135 trucks carrying food and other essential supplies entered the Gaza Strip in Palestine for distribution. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Tuesday, the National held a meeting with the media led by its secretary Jorge Rodriguez. During the event, Rodriguez affirmed that the media has the responsibility of showing and defending the truth and reality of Venezuela. In this context, the Secretary General called for the defense of peace in the communications war that is being waged against the country from abroad. He also urged the creation of a media chapter within the Council, emphasizing that regardless of where each person stands on the political spectrum, what really matters is defending Venezuela.
It is a way, and that's why we're doing this calling to you of defending the truth, of taking care of the truth. When they come here, they find themselves in a country that is in peace, a country that is peaceful, but the peace that we have to defend and that we have to take care of can't be a peace that makes us unmovable or a peace that puts us at the mercy of the lies that generally come through social media.
Likewise, Rodriguez reiterated that if the U.S. government wanted to combat drug trafficking, it should start by tackling the large-scale laboratories operating within its own borders that are responsible for the opioid epidemic.
If there was really an intention of combating the war and fighting drug trafficking, they could listen to the analysis that the New York Times just posted when they point out the truth that had already been signed by the President Nicolas Maduro and the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, that 85% of the drugs that reaches the United States goes through the Pacific, and they should be happy. The drug traffickers of Ecuador, starting by its president, and the drug traffickers of Peru, of Dominican Republic, of Colombia, and of Mexico, because the action in the Caribbean Sea and the threats in the Caribbean Sea and on all of the countries of the Caribbean region, especially on Venezuela, it just opened the path for drug trafficking that, curiously, one wonders, why is the United States of America fighting drug trafficking dozens of kilometers away from their territory? If the consumption happens in their territory, if the United States citizens addicted to drugs don't go to the Caribbean, or don't come to Venezuela, or don't go to another country, the cocaine, they sniff it in the United States of America.
And we stay in Venezuela. On early Tuesday morning, authorities of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces activated the integral defense operational zones in the northeastern states of Nueva Esparta, Sucre, and Delta Amacuro. The defensive exercise began with the deployment of military forces and resources with the objective of protecting the Atlantic Ocean and the Atlantic Caribbean coast from any international threat. As part of the strategic preparation of the people to continue winning peace and exercising the right to life and sovereignty. This new activation adds to the 8 operations previously implemented in La Guaira, Carabobo, Aragua, Zulia, Falcón, Anzoátegui, Monagas, and Bolivar, whose territories are ready to defend their sovereignty in a civil-military police fusion. And the favors that Venezuelans are grateful to Jose Gregorio Hernandez number in the hundreds of thousands throughout the country. For his devotees, they are simply miracles far beyond official recognition. Let's see.
Every flame burning here has a story of pain behind it, but also one of hope. They ask Jose Gregorio to intercede, to help them heal. He has been a popular saint for a long time. I have been through difficult times, I've been ill, and I will put in here. I will say to Jose Gregorio, help me, because I have more faith in him, a lot of faith, and no one is going to take that away from me. The miracle that led to his canonization left all the doctors who knew about this case baffled. As a child, Jack Sudi survived a high-caliber shot to the head. Her chances of survival were slim, but a full recovery was impossible. If I didn't have this part without bones or anything, I would say that nothing happened to me, because in reality I don't feel like I'm missing anything. It has not influenced my life in any way. And although this is the miracle that the Vatican studied in detail, there are thousands of favors granted that the Venezuelan people are grateful for in every shrine, church, and also at once his home in Caracas. It is moving to read and also to hear them.
In 2007, I was in the intensive care unit with my brother, who had Down syndrome and cerebral paralysis. I was sleeping when a doctor walked in, wearing a little hat. That was the only thing I saw. When I woke up, it was because the machines started making a loud noise, and I started yelling at the nurses. We thought my brother was leaving us. He was completely stable. My brother died in 2017, 10 years later, and that day they had said my brother would not survive the night. Dilievi also thought she was going to die. A hit and run that threw her more than 40 meters destroyed her legs. She's a neighbor of La Candelaria and visits the church where the remains of Jose Gregorio Hernandez rest to give thanks again and again. Unfortunately, it happened to me, but not because I didn't believe. I have always believed. The thing is, precisely because I have always believed. But never in my life did I imagine that I would speak so strongly to Jose Gregorio Hernandez and say, save my leg, I never imagined. Some after effects remain, especially in her right leg. But Dilievi leads a normal life and has no doubt that Jose Gregorio interceded. Religion is not an invention, you have to believe. And you don't have to go through a difficult situation to believe. In fact, the displays of passion among the Venezuelan people reflects this devotion even in the farthest corners of the country. Look, he lives in us because he's the saint who was instilled in us from a very young age. And he's the saint to whom we return when we are in poor health. And we have seen with great joy, amazement, and mercy all of his miracles. And they are grateful with the same devotion, fulfilling the promises, especially in the sanctuaries, where more than 150 relics displayed by the Archdiocese have arrived. The Altagracia parish in Barquisimeto will soon be one of them. He lives in the daily life of that person who asks him for a favor, without having declared him a saint.
Now with even more devotion as in Valencia, where the sanctuary displays the relic before the astonished gaze of its faithful.
It is part of the body, in this case of the skeleton, as is the case here, a bone fragment of Jose Gregorio Hernandez. The history of the saints is based on and grows precisely through the faith of the people. Therefore, these relics accompany the strength of our faith.
And it is expressed in the most diverse ways, like this little boy from the town of La Grita in Táchira. It is simply thrilling. Jose Gregorio Hernández, la paz y consuelo a todo el que sufre y saluda al enfermo. Favores concedidos que no son otra cosa. Favors granted that are nothing more than popular miracles.
Luisiani Gómez, Freddy Suárez, Gustavo Flores y Paola Dragnik. TeleSUR, Isnotú.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Haiti, clashes between criminal groups caused the death of at least 84 people. According to reports, among the fatalities are 4 Haitian police officers and 2 Kenyans. The National Network for the Defense of Human Rights points out that gangs act with impunity and that the police forces and the army of the multinational mission have been unable to stop them. These criminal acts took place in the last month of 2025 and demonstrate the state's inability to act in the face of the crisis of insecurity plaguing the country. Also, the Ecuadorian government will militarize the province of Imbabura after talks with indigenous communities failed to yield results. Government Minister Saida Rovira said the strike had to end, assuring that, in her opinion, the government exhausted all possibilities for progress and for resolving the situation through dialogue with indigenous communities. The minister added that starting this Tuesday, the government will intensify the actions of its public forces in that province to restore mobility. The country has seen protests in several areas since September 18th, following the neoliberal measures implemented by Daniel Noboa, which have created uncertainty among the people. Also, in this context, Ecuadorians denounced government repression after the deployment of hundreds of military and police personnel. Indigenous communities denounced continued violence in La Esperanza, Ibarra district, leaving at least 22 injured, including the president of the Caranqui people, Lenin Santiago Farinango. Several community members also reported the illegal detention of 2 young people, and protesters demand that Daniel Noboa end the repression and respect human rights, and they also reiterate that they are open to dialogue to end the social crisis that is affecting the country. In other topic, Colombian unions announced the organization of a national mobilization in support of the social reforms promoted by the government of Gustavo Petro. The Colombian Federation of Educators and the Unified Central of Workers stated that the demonstration will take place next Tuesday in Bolivar Square, Bogota. The national mobilization demands the approval of healthcare reform, the defense of pension reform, and the presentation of the organic bill to reform the general participation system. The call also is seeking to reject the position of Magistrate Jorge Enrique Ibáñez, who presented an unfavorable argument on the pension law to the Constitutional Court. And we go now to Argentina, where the educational community organized a nationwide strike to demand improvements in teaching and learning conditions. Workers and students from all levels of education marched from the National Congress to the Pisurno Palace, the building of the Secretariat of Education, in protest against the educational budget cuts imposed by Javier Milei. In this scenario, protesters demanded the adoption of a new education funding law, the convening of the National Teachers Joint Committee, the restoration of the National Teacher Incentive Fund, and a larger education budget. Teaching activities were suspended as an act of defense of public education, and in addition, the national strike included multiple initiatives such as educational tents, public classes, open radio broadcasts, caravans, and activities in squares and public spaces. Also in China, representatives of Latin American women renewed their commitment to promote gender equality within the framework of the World Leaders Conference on Women. During the conference, a donation of $10 million to United Nations Women was announced, along with an allocation of $100 million to global development initiatives aimed at supporting projects for women and girls in collaboration with international organizations. Representatives also warned that despite progress, women continue to face structural inequalities across various sectors. Beijing reiterated its commitment to peace, solidarity, and cooperation founded on mutual respect, diversity, and shared responsibility in the context of the emerging global order. And we have a second short break coming up. Before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. And a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to From the South. More than 135 trucks carrying food and other essential supplies entered the Gaza Strip in Palestine for distribution. The World Food Programme, WFP, announced that more than 170,000 tons of food are ready to be transported to the Gaza Strip, enough to feed 2 million people. The 8 trucks entered through the Karem Shalom crossing, which is home to dozens of families in shelters. In addition, the Gaza government office also announced the arrival of another 173 humanitarian trucks. And from Turkey, the ship of Benevolence sailed to the Gaza Strip with more than 900 tons of humanitarian aid. Following the beginning of the ceasefire, humanitarian aid activities have accelerated to provide food to the Gazan people. Nearly 17 non-government organizations send their contributions to the Palestinian people, including food, canned goods and baby food. In view of the humanitarian deployment, Turkish Senior Minister Ali Jelilkaya stated that the ship is carrying cargoes of mercy, conscience and humanity. Also, Israel handed over the first group of Palestinian bodies from those who were killed in the Gaza Strip. Within the framework of the ceasefire agreement, the bodies of those killed during the Israeli genocide arrived in Gaza, and in this regard, the International Committee of the Red Cross revealed that the return of the remains from all the Gazans who have died will take time, describing it as an enormous challenge given the difficulty of locating them among the rubble. And the Iranian government denounced the hypocrisy of U.S. President Donald Trump's rhetoric, who promotes peace while being responsible for wars worldwide. The Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs accused Washington of active complicity in the genocide perpetrated by Israel in the occupied Palestinian territories, and in addition, Iran denounced the fact that the United States is blocking all action in the United Nations Security Council and international judicial bodies aimed at holding those responsible for the genocide accountable. In this regard, Tehran pointed out the contradiction between Trump's words about peace and his hostile actions. In this scenario, Iran reaffirms the will of the Persian people to defend their independence and national dignity with courage, despite the threats and sanctions imposed by the United States. In other informations, the United States experienced another violent weekend with at least 12 people killed and 40 injured in 3 shootings that disrupted high school events in 2 states. With this, the number of mass shootings recorded in 2025 is approaching 340. In Mississippi, 2 incidents involving firearms occurred after high school football games, leaving 8 people dead and 20 injured. According to the non-governmental organization Gun Violence Archive, as of October 11, 2025, the United States has recorded 337 mass shootings. Several analysts warn that the proliferation of firearms and political polarization are fueling a climate of permanent tension in the United States. The persistence of this crisis reinforces the debate on gun control reform, a promise broken by successive U.S. administrations, including Donald Trump's. Meanwhile, on Tuesday, in the United States as well, congressional Democrats gathered outside the White House's budget office to condemn the layoff of federal workers decreed by the Trump administration amid the government shutdown. Senator Chris Van Hollen, a Maryland Democrat, called it a lie and illegal for the White House to use the shutdown to impose mass layoffs. The Democrats stood behind people that held signs printed with Budget Director Ross Vogt's face and his quote about wanting to put federal workers in trauma. Democrats have focused on trying to keep Affordable Care Act subsidies from expiring for millions of Americans who purchase insurance on Obamacare exchanges. Without this federal support, costs are expected to soar across the healthcare economy. And after this information, we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also, join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.